No one could have anticipated that what was meant to be a routine episode of The View, a platform revered for fostering spirited yet respectful discussions, would spiral into an explosive confrontation. On this particular day, all eyes were fixed on none other than Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur whose name has become synonymous with innovation, controversy, and polarizing opinions. What began as a lively debate, a clash of opposing viewpoints, as is customary for the show, took a dramatic turn in just minutes. The unexpected intensity of the exchange between Musk and Representative Jasmine Crockett transformed the set into a battleground, leaving both the studio audience and millions of viewers at home stunned. The tension in the room became palpable as the conversation quickly veered off course. What started as a structured dialogue devolved into a heated argument, with Crockett repeatedly interrupting Musk and delivering pointed criticisms. Her tone grew increasingly sharp, and Musk, though outwardly calm, delivered counterarguments with a precision that left the audience momentarily speechless. The atmosphere shifted from anticipation to something far more charged, like a taut string ready to snap. Then came the unprecedented moment. In a decision that shocked everyone present, Crockett was asked to leave the set. The abruptness of this action sent ripples through the studio, with gasps audible from the audience. For millions watching at home, it felt like witnessing history unfold in real time. This wasn't merely a debate, it was a media earthquake, a spectacle that would dominate headlines and conversations for weeks to come. Before diving deeper into the story, take a moment to reflect on where you're reading this from. Are you tuning in from the United States, where political debates often feel like high-stakes theater? Or perhaps you're following from another part of the world, intrigued by how American discourse plays out on such a public stage? Regardless of your location, this event serves as a reminder of the power of live television to captivate and divide. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories, because moments like these are rare and unforgettable. ####, setting the stage. Anticipation builds in the studio. The studio lights burned brighter than ever, casting sharp beams across the polished surface of the host's table. Yet, despite their brilliance, they couldn't dispel the heavy atmosphere enveloping the scene. The air was thick with anticipation, every breath seeming to carry the weight of expectation. The silence in the room was absolute, save for the faint hum of cameras and the occasional rustle of papers being adjusted. All eyes were fixed on the two central figures seated at the table: Elon Musk, the enigmatic billionaire whose ventures span industries from electric vehicles to space exploration, and Representative Jasmine Crockett, a formidable voice from the Democratic Party known for her unflinching advocacy and sharp rhetoric. The nation had been eagerly awaiting this moment. The debate promised to tackle some of the most pressing issues of the day, including the role of big tech in governance, the future of America's economic policies, and the broader implications of Musk's influence on both industry and politics. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and the anticipation was almost tangible. As the camera slowly panned across the set, capturing every glance and subtle shift in posture, it was clear that both Musk and Crockett were acutely aware of the significance of the occasion. Joy Behar, the seasoned host of The View, broke the silence with her signature blend of authority and poise. Her sharp demeanor and piercing voice commanded attention as she began with a slow, deliberate welcome. "Today," she announced, her tone setting the stage for what was to come, "we bring you a conversation that's sure to make waves, where technology, politics, and power collide." She turned first to Musk, her gaze intent. "Joining us today is Elon Musk, founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and now the force behind the X platform, one of the most influential figures in the modern world." Then, shifting her focus to Crockett, she continued, "And across from him is Representative Jasmine Crockett, a powerful voice from the Democratic Party, unafraid to ask tough questions and issue challenges." With the introductions complete, Behar paused for effect, allowing the gravity of the moment to settle over the room. Then, with practiced precision, she moved to the heart of the matter. "We begin with DOGI, the Department of Government Efficiency, a controversial initiative advised by Mr. Musk. Is this a revolutionary step forward or just a failed experiment in policy?" The question hung in the air, unanswered for a moment, as both guests prepared to engage. Crockett tightened her grip on her notes, her eyes focused and unwavering. She looked directly at Musk, her expression a mix of determination and skepticism. The tension in the room was electric, as if everyone present could sense that the conversation was about to take a dramatic turn. The nation and the world was watching, eager to see how this clash of ideologies would unfold. ##### The spark ignites. Crockett's opening salvo. As Joy Behar's question lingered in the air, Representative Jasmine Crockett seized the moment with a bold declaration aimed squarely at Elon Musk. Her voice carried both conviction and indignation as she leaned forward, her words cutting through the tense atmosphere. "DOGI isn't reform, Mr. Musk," she declared, her tone sharp and accusatory. "It's a job slaughter. You fired thousands of federal employees, pushing them into hardship just to serve your interests and President Trump's agenda. How can you justify destroying the lives of these workers?" The impact of Crockett's words was immediate. The audience erupted into a mix of applause and murmurs, clearly divided in their reactions. Some clapped enthusiastically, aligning themselves with the notion that Musk's actions were callous and self-serving, while others remained silent, perhaps uncertain or skeptical of Crockett's framing. The energy in the room shifted palpably, the initial calm giving way to a charged undercurrent of emotion. Musk, however, remained unfazed. He tilted his head slightly, the corner of his mouth curling into what appeared to be a wry smile, as though he had just heard an amusing but ultimately irrelevant anecdote. Placing his hands firmly on the table, he locked eyes with Crockett, his expression calm but calculating. "Representative Crockett," he began, his voice measured and deliberate, "let's look at the facts. The federal government wastes $600 billion annually on inefficient programs. DOGI has cut 12% of redundant personnel, saving $60 billion in just a few months. Why would you want to keep unnecessary jobs that burden the public with more debt?" His response was clinical, almost surgical in its precision. By presenting specific figures, Musk sought to reframe the narrative, positioning himself not as a destroyer of livelihoods but as a pragmatic problem solver. His use of data was calculated, an attempt to undercut Crockett's emotional appeal with cold, hard logic. But Crockett wasn't deterred. She furrowed her brow, clearly unprepared for Musk's rapid-fire rebuttal. Waving her hand dismissively, she raised her voice, her frustration evident. "Don't dodge the issue with numbers," she shot back, her tone rising. "Those you fired aren't redundant. They're parents, everyday workers raising kids on those salaries. You live in a billionaire's world. How could you possibly understand them? DOGI is a tool for you and Trump to consolidate power, not reform it." Her words resonated with a segment of the audience, who responded with applause and shouts of agreement. Crockett's appeal to empathy struck a chord, particularly among those who viewed Musk's actions through the lens of human impact rather than fiscal efficiency. Yet, Musk's composure never wavered. In response to her accusation, he leaned back slightly, his voice soft but sharp as a blade. "Power?" he repeated, his tone tinged with sarcasm. "You're mistaken. DOGI isn't about me or Trump, it's about giving money back to the people. Every year, 25% of the federal budget goes to unmonitored projects. I've made every DOGI decision public on X for anyone to see. Representative Crockett, what have you proposed to reduce waste, or do you only know how to attack on live TV?" The tension in the room reached a fever pitch as the exchange unfolded. Crockett clenched her fists, her face flushing with anger, while Musk maintained an almost unnerving calm. The audience, caught between the emotional pull of Crockett's arguments and the logical precision of Musk's responses, seemed unsure of whom to support. What had begun as a structured debate was rapidly spiraling into a full-blown confrontation, with neither side willing to yield. The verbal volley. Musk's counteroffensive. Elon Musk's calculated response to Representative Jasmine Crockett's accusations marked a turning point in the debate, transforming it from a straightforward policy discussion into a fierce ideological clash. Where Crockett had relied on emotional appeals and broad indictments, Musk countered with a barrage of data-driven arguments that sought to dismantle her position piece by piece. His strategy was clear: to neutralize Crockett's moral high ground by reframing the narrative around efficiency, transparency, and accountability. Let's talk about the facts, Musk began, his voice low but commanding as though addressing not just Crockett but the entire audience. The federal government wastes $600 billion annually on inefficient programs. That's taxpayer money, your money, that's being squandered. DoGI has cut 12% of redundant personnel, saving $60 billion in just a few months. If we don't address inefficiencies, the system will collapse under its own weight. His delivery was deliberate, each statistic landing with the precision of a well-aimed dart. By emphasizing the scale of government waste, Musk positioned himself as a reformer tackling systemic problems rather than a ruthless corporate figure slashing jobs indiscriminately. Crockett, visibly frustrated, attempted to pivot back to the human cost of the layoffs. "You can't reduce people to numbers," she insisted, her voice trembling with emotion. "Those workers have families, responsibilities. You think you're a king with DoGI, but you're just a billionaire showing off." Her appeal to empathy resonated with some members of the audience, who nodded in agreement or muttered their support. Yet Musk remained unshaken, leaning forward slightly as if preparing to deliver a knockout blow. "Solving problems isn't showing off," he retorted, his tone soft but laced with steel. "DoGI is about efficiency, not emotions. Protecting people means protecting 300 million Americans from a wasteful system. Every DoGI report is public on X for anyone to scrutinize. Have you read them, or do you just enjoy performing outrage?" The jab was unmistakable, challenging Crockett's credibility and accusing her of prioritizing theatrics over substance. The tension escalated further when Musk turned the tables, directly questioning Crockett's contributions. "What alternatives have you proposed to reduce waste?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do you have any solutions, or is attacking me on live TV your only strategy?" The audience chuckled nervously, sensing the sting of Musk's critique. Crockett, caught off guard, opened her mouth to respond but faltered, her earlier confidence wavering under the weight of his relentless questioning. To drive his point home, Musk took to his phone, typing out a tweet in real time. The studio screen displayed his post. "Crockett says DoGI doesn't care about people. Who thinks it helps Americans? Vote." Within seconds, the poll results flooded in, with 68% of respondents siding with Musk. The visual reinforcement of his argument added another layer to his counteroffensive, underscoring his dominance in the debate. Crockett, visibly agitated, snapped back, her voice breaking under the pressure. "You think a few tweets make you right?" she demanded, her tone tinged with desperation. But Musk, ever composed, leaned in closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "No, Representative," he replied, his voice steady and cutting. "Facts make me right. And the fact is, you haven't offered a single alternative idea." The audience reaction was mixed but telling. While some applauded Musk's command of the facts, others sympathized with Crockett's impassioned defense of the workers affected by the layoffs. Yet, as the exchange unfolded, it became increasingly clear that Musk's approach, rooted in data, transparency, and rhetorical precision, was gaining traction. Crockett, meanwhile, struggled to regain her footing, her emotional appeals losing ground to Musk's relentless logic. Hashtag shifting grounds. Free speech in the age of social media. As the dust settled from the heated exchange over DoGI, Joy Behar skillfully steered the conversation toward another contentious topic: free speech in the age of social media. With a practiced finesse that underscored her years of hosting, Behar framed the discussion as a natural progression from the previous debate, seamlessly transitioning to a subject that promised to be equally divisive. "Thank you both for your strong perspectives on DoGI," she said, her tone both friendly and sharp, a hallmark of her moderating style. "Now, let's move to a topic that's heating up the public discourse: free speech in the age of social media. X, under Mr. Musk's leadership, is praised as a bastion of freedom but also criticized as biased. Jasmine, what are your thoughts on how X shapes the public's voice?" Crockett, still visibly bristling from the earlier confrontation, took a deep breath before responding. Her eyes, sharp and piercing, seemed to bore into Musk as she began her critique. "Thank you, Joy. she said, her voice steely and resolute. Mr. Musk, you claim X is the flag bearer of free speech, but it's just a performance. X has become a megaphone for extreme and pro-Trump views, while voices critical of you are suppressed. Accounts are shadow banned, posts removed without explanation. You're not promoting freedom, you're steering public opinion to suit yourself. Her words ignited applause from one corner of the audience, signaling that her accusations resonated with at least a portion of the viewers. Musk, however, remained unfazed, his smirk barely perceptible but enough to convey his confidence. Leaning forward, he placed his hands on the table, his glinting eyes betraying a hint of amusement. Representative Crockett, he began, his voice low but sharp, that's a serious accusation, but I need specific evidence. Name one account I've blocked just for criticizing me. Name one post I've deleted for disagreeing. All of X's policies are public, you can check them. Or are you just crafting a story to stir emotions? Crockett blinked, momentarily caught off guard by Musk's directness. Leaning forward herself, her voice rose slightly, its pitch betraying her growing frustration. You don't need to delete posts to control, you tweak the algorithm to favor content you want, like pro-Trump posts, and bury what you don't like. That's how you manipulate X and turn it into your personal playground, not a fair platform. Her words stirred the audience again, drawing louder applause this time, though it was interspersed with murmurs of dissent. Seizing the moment, Musk pulled out his phone, his fingers swiping quickly as he navigated to X. The camera zoomed in on his screen, displaying a freshly typed tweet. Crockett says I manipulate X. Who thinks X is the freest place to speak? Vote. Within moments, the poll results began pouring in, with thousands of responses flooding the platform. The studio screen displayed the tally. 74% of respondents believed X was a free platform. Musk glanced up, his expression smug but controlled. Manipulation, he asked, his voice soft but razor-sharp. You have 2.7 million followers on X, posting against me daily. Last month, one of your tweets about Trump got 12 million views. If I'm manipulating, how did you get those numbers? Crockett's lips pursed, her eyes flashing with fury. That's not the point, she snapped, her voice trembling. You let a few posts survive to look good, but your algorithm pushes extreme content to the top. The public deserves transparency, not your fake freedom. Her rebuttal drew nods from some audience members, but Musk only shook his head slightly, as if dismissing her argument with ease. Transparency, he replied, his tone laced with sarcasm. I've open-sourced X's algorithm. You can hire any coder to check it. Before I bought X, 60% of accounts were banned for political views, mostly conservative. I removed those bans. Now, X has 620 million monthly users, up 25% from last year. Every voice, from far left to far right, gets airtime. You want transparency? Show evidence, not baseless accusations. The audience fell silent, some whispering among themselves, drawn into Musk's argument. Co-host Sunny Hostin interjected cautiously, her voice measured. Elon, but many feel X isn't as fair as it used to be. Do you think your algorithm might unintentionally favor certain views? Musk turned to Hostin, his eyes sharp but a lingering smile softening his expression. Fairness isn't forcing every opinion to get equal views. Fairness is letting everyone speak and letting users choose. If you doubt it, post something against me right now, I guarantee it'll go viral. Crockett, unwilling to concede, waved her hand emphatically, her voice nearly a shout. That's a trick. You control the flow of information and you know it. X doesn't belong to the people, it's yours, and you use it to shape public opinion. Musk remained still, raising an eyebrow slightly as if amused by her persistence. Representative, he said, his voice slow and explanatory, if I'm shaping public opinion, why do anti-Musk hashtags trend weekly? Why do you still get millions of views? X belongs to its users, not me. Make a strong enough argument to convince people instead of blaming me. Crockett faltered, her words stumbling as she glanced at Behar and Hostin for support. Both remained silent, leaving her isolated. The audience began to chuckle at Musk's composure, further eroding her momentum. Once again, Musk seized the opportunity, typing another tweet. Crockett says X isn't free. Who thinks X users decide the content? Vote. The screen displayed the results, further cementing his apparent victory. #### the China factor. Navigating global business and political allegiances. As the debate intensified, Joy Behar pivoted to a topic that loomed large over the conversation: the delicate balance between global business interests and political responsibility, particularly in the context of Elon Musk's ties to China. Her tone, smooth yet calculated, reflected the gravity of the issue. We've witnessed a heated discussion about DJI and X's role in promoting free speech, she began, but now a bigger question awaits. How can billionaires like you, Elon, balance global business interests with responsibility to Trump's administration, especially when Tesla, with its close ties to China, a strategic rival of the US, plays a major role in the global economy? Elon, what do you say to concerns that this could lead to conflicts of interest? The audience buzzed with anticipation, their applause mingling with murmurs of intrigue. The question was loaded, touching on themes of economic dependency, geopolitical rivalry, and the ethical obligations of corporate leaders. Musk, ever composed, tilted his head slightly, his eyes glinting as if analyzing the query. He tapped his fingers lightly on the table, then responded with characteristic precision. Joy, thank you for the question, he began, his voice low but sharp. Tesla operates in 50 countries, and China is a major market, yes. But let's look at the facts. Last year, Tesla created 120,000 jobs in the US, paid $22 billion in taxes, and built a factory in Shanghai to compete globally, not to depend on it. If the US doesn't play the game, rivals will dominate and will lose. I work with Trump's administration to advance American interests, not to dodge responsibility. Crockett, spotting what she perceived as a crack in Musk's armor, leaned forward, her eyes blazing with intensity. Mr. Musk, she interjected, her voice steely and accusatory, you talk about American interests, but that's just an excuse. You can't be Trump's advisor, slapping heavy tariffs on China while making billions from your Shanghai factory. That's a clear conflict of interest. You put personal profit above national security, and the American people need to know your real motives. Her words drew applause from some audience members, signaling that her critique resonated with a segment of viewers. Musk, however, only smiled faintly, his expression betraying a mix of amusement and resolve. Let's talk facts, he replied, his voice soft but biting. I've invested $12 billion in clean energy research in the US. Meanwhile, Chinese competitors receive tens of billions in subsidies. Tesla produces 55% of the world's electric vehicles, leading globally. If I don't compete in China, the US loses its edge. Do you want America to lead or fall behind? Crockett's lips tightened, her eyes flashing with fury. Don't deflect, she shot back, her voice rising. You work for Trump but profit from a country he calls an enemy. That's hypocrisy. You can't be a patriot and get rich off Beijing. Her accusation drew nods and applause from some in the audience, but Musk remained unruffled, shaking his head slightly as if dismissing her argument with ease. Hypocrisy? He asked, his tone laced with sarcasm. Let's examine the details. I take zero subsidies from China, unlike Tesla's competitors. I built the Shanghai factory to export cars worldwide, bringing billions back to the US. So how do you explain why politicians in your party take millions from China-dependent companies? Is that loyalty? The audience fell silent, some whispering among themselves, drawn into Musk's counterargument. Co-host Sunny Hostin interjected cautiously, her voice measured. Elon, but Jasmine raises a real issue. How do you ensure there's no conflict when working for Trump and doing business with China? Musk turned to Hostin, his smile lingering but his eyes sharp. I make all of Tesla's contracts public. Our headquarters, research, and future are in America. If you're worried about conflicts, ask politicians taking money from Chinese big tech. I put America first. Crockett, unwilling to concede, waved her hand emphatically, her voice nearly a shout. That's a trick. You use Tesla to hide your real motives. You're loyal to profits, not America. Musk remained still, raising an eyebrow slightly as if amused by her persistence. Representative, he said, his voice slow and explanatory, if I only cared about profits, I wouldn't have spent $44 billion to buy X and protect free speech. Tesla is proof America can lead the world. You want to talk motives? Show evidence I favor China. If not, you're just telling stories. Crockett faltered, her breathing rapid as if searching for a response. The audience began to chuckle at Musk's composure, further eroding her momentum. Once again, Musk seized the opportunity, typing another tweet. Crockett says I'm conflicted. Who trusts Tesla to lead America? Vote. The screen displayed the results, further cementing his apparent victory. ### democracy under fire, the billionaire influence debate. As the discussion transitioned into its final phase, Joy Behar posed a question that struck at the heart of the evening's tensions: the role of billionaires like Elon Musk in shaping American democracy. Her tone, smooth yet expectant, underscored the gravity of the topic. Thank you both for a tense and lively debate, she began, her voice carrying a note of finality. We've talked about DOGI, X, and Tesla's role in China, but now a bigger question looms. How is the influence of billionaires like Mr. Musk shaping American politics? This isn't just about power, it's about responsibility. Jasmine, what are your thoughts on its impact on democracy? Crockett, seizing the moment with palpable urgency, leaned forward, her eyes flashing as if ready to deliver a decisive blow. Taking a deep breath, she spoke with a voice that was sharp, slightly trembling but resolute. Mr. Musk, she began, her gaze locked onto him, you and your billionaire allies aren't just buying influence, you're buying this country. You pour millions into Trump's campaign, control X to serve your agenda, and sit in the White House advising policies that benefit your empire. That's not democracy, that's an oligarchy. You don't serve the people, you serve yourself. And Americans deserve leaders who put their interests first. Her words landed like a sharp slap, leaving the studio momentarily silent, all eyes fixed on Musk. For once, Musk's usual calm demeanor seemed to flicker, albeit imperceptibly. His fingers tapped lightly on the table, a faint, unreadable smile playing on his lips. Looking directly at Crockett, he responded in a voice that was low and deliberate, as though dissecting her accusation piece by piece. Representative Crockett, he began, that's a very dramatic story, but let's get to the facts. I funded both parties, public records prove it. My role in the White House is to fix a broken system, not to get richer. As for X, it's where 600 million people, including you, speak freely. If I'm buying influence, why do your posts criticizing me get millions of views? Seems like the people still hold the power. Crockett's eyes widened, her voice breaking as she leaned further forward, her frustration bubbling to the surface. Don't twist the truth, she exclaimed, her tone rising. You don't just fund, you buy access. Your money got you a seat at Trump's table, and now you push policies that protect billionaires like you. Ordinary Americans don't have that power. You're turning democracy into a playground for the ultra-rich, and that's shameful. Musk's response was almost cheerful, but his words were razor-sharp. My role in policy is to end waste, not add to it. You say I serve myself, name one policy I've pushed for personal gain. I'm waiting. Crockett froze, her breathing rapid, as if searching for a response. You're dodging, she shouted, her voice cracking under the strain. Your wealth gives you power no one else has. You influence elections, shape the narrative on X, and sit in the White House like an untouchable king. That's not democracy, that's corruption. The audience buzzed, but the applause was sparse, as if Crockett's words lacked the necessary weight to sway the room. Musk leaned in, his eyes sharp as a blade. Corruption? That's a heavy accusation, Representative. Let's look at the numbers. My companies create 200,000 jobs globally, mostly in America. I've paid $30 billion in taxes over the past decade. X is the world's largest platform for open debate, with 650 million monthly users. If I'm a king, I'm a terrible one because I've empowered the people more than ever. You say I influence elections? Show one piece of evidence? Or are you just shouting to cover up the fact that you have no answers? The studio fell silent, the weight of Musk's words spreading through the room like a ripple. Co-host Sunny Hostin spoke up cautiously, her voice tinged with concern. Elon, Jasmine raises a real issue about wealth and influence. How do you ensure your role doesn't drown out the voices of ordinary voters? Musk turned to Hostin, a sharp smile on his face. By letting voters speak. X gives every American a megaphone. If my wealth drowned them out, why do grassroots movements trend on X daily? Numbers don't lie, only stories do. Crockett trembled, her face flushed with a mix of anger and disbelief. That's ridiculous, she snapped. You're not a hero, you're a billionaire who thinks he's God. You think your money and platform make you untouchable, but the people will see through you. Musk narrowed his eyes, his voice low and chilling. Representative, if the people see through me, why do they trust X more than ever? Last week, your anti-Musk hashtag trended for 48 hours. If I'm God, I'm a terrible one. Show evidence, don't lean on emotions. Crockett froze, her face a mix of anger and despair. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Then, in a shocking moment, she yanked her microphone off, slamming it onto the table with a piercing metallic clang. She screamed, her voice breaking, "I'm not sitting here for a billionaire to mock our democracy." Storming out of the studio, her footsteps echoed, leaving the audience in stunned silence. Hashtag the fallout. Chaos in the studio. The studio descended into unprecedented chaos as Jasmine Crockett stormed off the set, her dramatic exit leaving Elon Musk seated calmly, as though he had just finished a chess match. The audience erupted into a cacophony of reactions. Some leapt to their feet, clapping wildly, while others sat in stunned disbelief, shaking their heads. The atmosphere was electric, a volatile mix of shock, admiration, and confusion. Shouts mingled with whispers as viewers grappled with what they had just witnessed. Cameras panned frantically, attempting to capture every angle of the unfolding media explosion. Joy Behar, usually the epitome of professionalism, now wore a forced smile that betrayed her discomfort. "Well, that was quite a moment nobody saw coming," she remarked, her tone strained but attempting to maintain composure. "But that's The View, always full of surprises. We'll be back with more shocks. Thank you for watching." Her words, though practiced, barely registered with the audience, whose attention remained glued to Musk, who was now scrolling through his phone as if the incident were just another day's work. In a corner of the studio, co-host Sunny Hostin bowed her head, whispering urgently to her fellow hosts. Her eyes were filled with concern, reflecting the gravity of the situation. Backstage, the producers were in crisis mode. Arguments erupted through headsets as some urged an immediate cut to commercial, while others insisted the cameras keep rolling, knowing the footage would be pure gold for ratings. A staff member rushed out, handing Behar a slip of paper, likely instructions from the director, but she glanced at it briefly before brushing it aside, struggling to regain her composure. Behind the scenes, the producers debated furiously. "We can't let this clip air without control," a show director yelled into his headset. But it was too late. Within minutes, snippets of Crockett's explosive exit had already spread across social media, racking up hundreds of thousands of shares. Viewers captured clips on their phones, uploading them to platforms like X, where they went viral almost instantly. Memes proliferated at breakneck speed, one image of Crockett leaving captioned, "When you think you can take on Elon but forget to bring data." Another short video spliced her exit with an action movie soundtrack, garnering millions of views within seconds. A prominent account tweeted, "Crockett just knocked herself out of the game." Musk didn't even need to stand up, accompanied by a crying laughing emoji. Celebrities joined the fray, with a comedian posting, "Crockett ran faster than Musk's Starship taking off." Meanwhile, a political commentator wrote, "This wasn't just Crockett's defeat, it's proof of X's power to shape public opinion." Even a pop star, typically silent on politics, shared the clip with the caption, "Whatever side you're on, you can't deny Musk knows how to play this game." Back in the studio, Musk remained the focal point. Unfazed by the pandemonium, he posted another tweet. Thanks to The View for the chance to debate. Truth always wins, with or without a microphone. The post garnered hundreds of thousands of likes within minutes, cementing his victory on social media. The incident had transcended the confines of the studio, becoming a cultural touchstone that dominated online discourse. ###the ripple effect. Media reactions and public discourse. The fallout from Jasmine Crockett's dramatic exit from The View reverberated far beyond the studio walls, igniting a firestorm of media coverage and public discourse. Conservative outlets seized on the moment, framing it as a triumph of data-driven reasoning over emotional theatrics. Fox News aired a lengthy segment titled, "Musk Exposes the Truth. Crockett Can't Cope," featuring political analysts who lauded Musk's composure and reliance on statistics. "Crockett came in with emotions, but Musk had numbers and calm," remarked a former Republican strategist. "She set herself up to lose." Breitbart published an op-ed hailing Musk as a hero of reason, arguing that Crockett's departure proved progressive politicians couldn't handle the truth. Conservative radio personalities, from Sean Hannity to Glenn Beck, devoted hours to dissecting the event, emphasizing that Musk had shattered the myth of The View as a fair arena for debate. Progressive media, on the other hand, struggled to mount a cohesive defense. While outlets like MSNBC hosted discussions inviting social activists to decry Musk's actions as public bullying, these efforts were largely rebuffed by the public. Many commenters dismissed Crockett's exit as a failure to present substantive arguments, with one viewer writing, "Crockett didn't protest, she gave up because she had no argument." The New York Times published an analysis titled, "The View Clash: When Debate Turns to Performance," which argued that Musk's confrontational style had left Crockett no room to articulate her case. A journalist from the outlet noted, "Crockett represented everyday workers facing billionaire power, but her exit was less a protest and more a capitulation." Despite these attempts to reframe the narrative, progressive voices seemed feeble against the overwhelming momentum of Musk's victory. Neutral outlets adopted a more balanced approach, focusing on the broader implications of the incident. The Washington Post ran a piece titled, "Musk and Crockett: The Moment That Changed How We See Talk Shows," analyzing how the debate marked a turning point in live television, where data and composure trumped emotion. Bloomberg, approaching the event from a business perspective, noted that Musk's triumph not only bolstered his personal brand but also elevated X's value as a platform shaping public opinion. Both articles highlighted the staggering engagement metrics. The incident drew over 15 million views across online platforms within 24 hours, a record for The View. Independent journalists and commentators further amplified the discourse. A freelance political analyst published a 2,000-word Substack piece dissecting Musk's arguments and noting that Crockett had entered the debate unarmed, lacking the data to counter his points effectively. The post was widely shared, garnering thousands of likes. A popular political podcaster invited a former Democratic congressman to discuss the event, who admitted Crockett underestimated Musk. She needed data, not just passion. These voices, though varied, reinforced the perception that Musk had dominated not just the studio but the broader public discourse. Social media played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative, with memes, videos, and commentary flooding platforms like X. One viral post read, "Crockett thought she could yell in Musk's face and win, he's the king of data." The incident wasn't merely a televised moment, it became a cultural battle, showcasing how Musk's command of facts and his platform could shape narratives in ways no one had anticipated. #long-term implications. A paradigm shift in public discourse. The aftermath of Jasmine Crockett's explosive departure from The View extended far beyond the immediate spectacle, leaving an indelible mark on the landscape of American political discourse and media. For The View, the incident was a wound that refused to heal. Once celebrated as a trusted forum for diverse perspectives, the show now faced mounting challenge. Her the range masked supreme poised, Crockett true. Precise, her mind his armacy.